Good morning, and welcome to the Planning Officer's hearing for August 1st, 2012. My name is Eric Krause, and I will be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. We have one conditional use permit case today, and relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 3042 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit shall be granted if 4 required findings are present. And for applications involving the sales, serving, or consumption of alcoholic beverages, there are also 5 criteria that shall be considered in making the 4 findings for granting a CUP. If the evidence presented in the application and at the hearing meets the criteria, then the planning hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will be conducted as follows. I will read the description of the application request. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case, give an analysis, and making a recommendation. The applicant will be asked to come forward stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support or in opposition to the application and any interested parties will be asked to come forward and speak, again clearly stating both the name and address within a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make a closing comments, if desired, in response to testimony given by preceding speakers and within a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will be closed and the case will be taken under submission. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written comments and responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 3062 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from Building and Safety Section, Permit Services Center, located in room 101 of this building. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker forms which have been provided by the front door and submit it to our planning assistant. I would like to also inform everyone that the official proceedings of the hearing are being recorded as part of the public record. Okay, our first case today is located at 1700 West Glen Oaks Boulevard in Units B and G. It's for a conditional use permit, case number PCUP 1210429. The applicant is Rodney Kahn, and the property owner is ZHS Investments, LLC. Case planner is Rather Duong. And this is for an application for a conditional use permit to allow the on-site consumption for tastings of beer and wine and distilled spirits as an educational tool at an existing liquor store. The instructional tasting will be conducted on the ground floor in Unit B for beer and distilled spirits, and Unit G for wine, which is located on the second floor, where there is an existing bar area located at 1700 West Glen Oaks Boulevard, Units B and G in the C1 neighborhood commercial zone. Mr. Duong, may I have your report, please?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Krause. As you stated, the subject property is located at 1700 West Glen Oaks Boulevard, Units B and G. Again, this is a conditional use permit to allow the on-site sales, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages, including instructional tasting of beer, wine, and distilled spirits. The liquor store encompasses 2 units, which are Unit B and G, on 2 levels in a combined area of 4,000 square feet. The tasting in this case is intended to be an educational tool and will include beer, wine, and distilled spirits. And in this case are required to be conducted by the vendors or manufacturers of those products. Just by way of some background, the current proposal is a modification to case number PCUP 2011-024, which was approved on December 15, 2011 with conditions. The applicant's coming back to modify the CUP and under the new conditional use permit in order to meet ABC requirement to separate the tasting of the beer and distilled spirit from the tasting of the wine. The subject site is located in a two-story multi-tenant commercial building with underground parking and was constructed in 2009. The building is on a corner lot bounded by West Glendale Boulevard and Western Avenue and is surrounded by other commercial developments to the east, residential developments to the west and south, and more commercial establishment across the street. The building is currently leased by various retail service type uses, including a bakery, counter service restaurant, tanning salon, and a beauty salon. Again, the subject property is located in the C1 zone, which is the neighborhood commercial zone. The intent of the C1 zone is to draw from the local residents and those who conduct and reside within the area. And it is considered a low-density commercial zone as opposed to the other commercial zone we have in the city. The type of uses that are permitted in this zone are, again, low intensity in nature. And the existing liquor store is considered low intensity and mainly serve to draw from the local neighborhoods. Remedy Liquor is located. The building was constructed in 2009, and after having gone through the city entitlement and plan check process, as such, appropriate division departments have reviewed the project and imposed the necessary standards to ensure that the facility will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, and that all utilities, landscaping, parking, and traffic have been addressed. The tasting are solely intended to be, again, educational as a way to inform and educate the general public about the different types of varieties of alcohol beverages Remedy Liquor offers. The primary revenue will continue to be generated through the off-site sale of alcoholic beverages. And as such, the tasting events is considered an enhancement to the existing business. Currently, Remedy has two types of ABC licenses, Type 21, which allows the establishment of the liquor store, and Type 42, which allows the tasting of wine. So in this case, the tasting of distilled spirits would require a Type 86 license from ABC, which the applicant intends to secure. Remedy Liquor has been operating from this location for approximately 3 years, and before that at a nearby location for 12 years. Overall, the proposed tasting of alcoholic beverages will not conflict or impede the normal development of surrounding properties, both commercial and residential, as Remedy Liquor will be required to meet additional performance standards particularly from Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. And while from the zoning code perspective, the proposed tasting is considered on-site consumption of alcoholic beverages, its overall intent and purpose are very different from on-site consumption typically observed at a restaurant, a bar, tavern, or a nightclub. So overall, staff supports the request and recommends approval of the subject CUP, CUP 1210429, with condition, and the findings in this case could be made as discussed in the staff report, and staff is recommending the CUP with some conditions, some of which are standard conditions, and the other conditions are specific to this location and this business. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I don't have any questions at this time. If I can get the applicant to come forward, please. You have 15 minutes to present your case.
Good morning, Mr. Kraus and city staff. My name is Rodney Kahn. My offices are located at 1111 North Bryan Boulevard, Suite 403 here in the city of Glendale. To add to Mr. Duong's presentation, really a few things. One, the site, as you know, is on the corner of Western and Glen Oaks Boulevard. It's part of an existing shopping center. And my client owns and operates the business, Remedy Liquor, but along with his partners, he also owns and operates this shopping center. So he has very much a vested interest in the facility. This was a modification, as Mr. Duong pointed out. Originally, we had come before the hearing officer at the end of last year and had the approval for the instructional tasting, and actually had proposed or discussed at that time to have it up on the second floor. Because right now on the second floor, as Mr. Duong pointed out, we have a license for wine tasting. And what I want to do is clarify, the wine tasting is separate and distinct and different from the instructional tasting. We went through, we got our approvals, and then working through ABC, discovered that they said we want to separate so that there's no confusion and there's no problems. We want to separate the area where the instructional tasting will take place. So therefore, it was moved from the second floor, where the wine tasting occurs, down to the ground floor. And there are some very specific, distinct requirements, and we provided this as part of our submittal packet, that ABC has as it relates to instructional tasting licenses. Instructional tasting is relatively new. It was passed in 2011, so you can see what it is it's just basically ABC has created a license that allows people to come in, have a very, very small sample. In some cases, it's an ounce as it relates to wine, or for spirits, I think it's a quarter of an ounce, a very small amount to be able to taste, so that if they're purchasing this, they at least have sampled it before they are able to do that. And there's also some very distinct requirements as well. It can't be served by the proprietor or the owner of the business. It has to be done by the distributor or their representative. And that's different and unique from any of the other licenses. So we've designated now a specific area that has this instructional tasting in it. And that's for spirits and for the beer. The wine tasting, which is separate. It's a separate permit, is a separate, distinct area up on the second floor, will remain, along with the other license, which allows for the packaged off-site sale of alcoholic beverages. Everything else will be the same as we presented at the last hearing, as you have in your file. The hours of operation are going to remain the same. It's Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., Friday and Saturday from 9 a.m. to midnight, and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. As stated in the staff report as well, there is concurrence or agreement or support from the police department, which is a significant department as it relates to these types of licenses. Along with the other city departments, they had either no comment or they were supportive of our application. In terms of the findings, not to belabor the point or go through all of them, we agree with staff that all the findings can be made and should be made, similar to what was made last time. This is simply a minor modification. We've reviewed the conditions of approval that were called out by staff in the report, and we agree to comply with all of them. So I'll conclude my remarks. If you have questions, I'd be happy to provide answers.
I just had a couple quick questions.
Sure.
Now, right now, the tastings that you have on site are just for wine and beer and not for alcohol, or do you have alcohol and ABCs want you to separate the two?
No. Currently, right now, we have wine tasting up on the second floor, which is a completely different type of license than what we're discussing here today, which is the Type 86 license. That license is totally different, and that is wine tasting, as you may have experienced or gone to other facilities that allow the proprietor to serve wine, and it's not limited to an ounce or a quarter ounce or anything like that. That's taking place right now as we speak. We have a license for that. The city has approved it, and ABC has approved it as well. This is a separate license, instructional tasting, which has a whole different list of criteria, and that's for the spirits and for the beer on the ground floor.
Okay, so those are completely separate, basically.
Completely separate
Now,
licenses.
as far as the Type 86, would that allow you to do instructional tasting for wine on that same level?
It would allow for the instructional tasting of wine, but what they'd want to do is separate that out.
So that'd be a condition of your permit with the ABC?
Right.
Now, so instructional just means it's just a basic amount of alcohol that's provided for tasting versus wine tasting where you could pour a full glass?
Right, and there's other criteria, and I don't want to belabor the point, but things like it's even further restricted. You can only have one type of alcoholic beverage, so it could be only, let's say, a vodka, and it can be only one distributor, and it can only be once a day. And there's a lot of different criteria than you would have for if it wasn't instructional tasting. And the reason being is they really want to regulate it, and they really want small samples and small amounts, not on an overly regular basis. Very sporadically, they want that so that it doesn't get to be a problem. And in this particular case, it wouldn't be a problem no matter what, but they have to regulate it throughout the state that way.
Now, where you said that's going to be on the ground floor, the distilled?
The instructional tasting will be on the ground floor, and what we'll do is there's criteria that you have to section it off. I mean, you can't have anyone under 21 years of age. You have to have designated physical area for it to be taking place. They want no confusion whatsoever. And that was one of the reasons why we moved it from the second to the first floor, is there doesn't want to be any type of confusion, if you will, that, oh, is that an instructional tasting or is that regular tasting, whatever. It's very distinct, very specific location, and served by the distributor, not by the licensee or the operator of the facility.
Now the regular ABC license, the Type 21, does that allow you to sell wine on the second floor as well? Or just
Yes.
Okay.
We have the one license allows us to sell beer, wine, and spirits on the first and second floor for off-site consumption. Then we have the 42, which allows us the wine tasting on the second floor that's not instructional. And then this is, the CUP is for the city, but the Type 86 is for the instructional, for the spirits and the beer to be tasted.
All right, that's pretty clear then. Okay. I don't have any further questions. Does staff any other comments you'd like to add?
No, I don't.
The applicant, you have 5 minutes. I didn't hear any comments from the public, so I don't assume you don't need that time.
I don't need that time.
Okay, so this case will be taken under submission. I'll be preparing my decision within the next week or so. This hearing is now officially closed, and thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.